Chapter 1053 had my mind sparked and racing. It was a great chapter to leave off on the break month, and as I promised, there will be an increase in activity in my output. If you haven't already subscribed to my ParVision VODs channel, do so, because I'm posting all my streams there and all of my new TikToks are being posted there as well. All of that being said, I want to share a bunch of mini theories that I've had brewing, and I kind of just want to share all of them in like a shotgun style. Some of these theories may be brought into a larger theory video later down the line, or created into its own larger video too. But today's video will be focused on Green Bull. So here we go. If you're new to my channel, the way I view the world is by making connections. So let me connect you to my vision, the ParVision. So the first thing, starting off with one I've been very vocal about. Let's talk about Green Bull. I think Green Bull had one of the coolest introductions in One Piece, but the way he was shown makes you ask, where did he come from? So we know he is an admiral that was brought in with Fujitora to replace the missing positions that Akainu and Aokiji held. This implies that both of them were not necessarily with the Navy system prior to joining. Fujitora received a special appointment to the rank of admiral, and we're unsure of Green Bull's background. What's really crazy is the first panel of Green Bull. If I were to describe and summarize Green Bull in a word from this showing, it would be that he's a pirate. He's literally such a pirate that he raided a fortress, murdered everyone, pillaged them, and even beat them while they were down while drinking the spoils of war. He called King and Queen fodder on top of that, which shows how powerful he is, depending on your perspective on King and Queen's current state, but it can be understood that he is incredibly strong, which begs the question again, where did he come from? Green Bull was probably not world government or navy as he was drafted into the military. Also, even though he is very pirate-like, it wouldn't make sense for a pirate to be drafted into the military, given that they would probably become warlords instead. But also the whole abolishment of the warlord system was due to keeping the pirates out of the system and preventing more Doflamingos and crocodiles from happening. But with that in mind, what's left for Green Bull? And that's where I think Green Bull was a bounty hunter prior to the military draft. I think a small clue also lies in the next panel in 1053, where we see a partial underlying motivation that might be his. He's very focused on bringing Luffy's head to appease Akainu, which might be due to his old habits as a bounty hunter. But even without that, I think this would make a lot of sense given that Green Bull is so incredibly powerful that if he weren't in the Navy or a pirate, it makes you wonder how he became so powerful. And if he were a bounty hunter, it would be an easy explanation as to how he got so powerful. It'd be by collecting the bounties. Also keep in mind, Zoro was a bounty hunter, named the Pirate Hunter before he met Luffy, and Oda said if Zoro didn't become a pirate, he would become a cop, or in the One Piece verse, that would be the Navy, right? Also, if he were a bounty hunter, that would give him a predisposition to working with the Navy in general, as he would need to collect his bounties with them and then cash them in. And that's where this might come full circle with Akainu. That might be the relationship he had with Akainu that allows him to know Akainu's attitude, and has him wanting to hear Akainu say, "You did good." It's like this is an established relationship where, as an admiral in the Navy, Akainu created a relationship with Green Bull to clear out wanted bounties that Akainu could not do himself due to his responsibilities as an admiral, and now fleet admiral. It might even be similar to the relationship that Garp had with Roger, for example, where people in the Navy over time gain camaraderie with individuals that live outside of the law for various reasons. Also, this isn't the first time we have heard Aramaki acting like Sakazuki's lapdog. When we were first introduced to Green Bull, the first line he said was that Sakazuki wants him to find Fujitora and kick him out, which he didn't really act on, but it was mainly because he didn't want to fight Fujitora. Now, that is all theory that I think is more grounded and sound on its own. The next part about Green Bull is more of a reach, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And it works off the last theory a little bit, so it might be understandable that Green Bull hunts people down. But there's also a huge underground market for devil fruits. So for this, we have to look at his power and what we know of devil fruits. When a devil fruit user dies, their fruit will respawn to another fruit. We are unsure of the certain prerequisites of whether it needs to be the same fruit or how far it would need to be, but look at Green Bull. In every instance we saw of him in 1053, he leaves a field of nature behind him, and it doesn't seem all that restricted. There's grass, vines, mushrooms, and flowers, and if there are flowers, that means fruits are possible, since fruits are basically just flowers. So this is where the stretch comes in. I think that Green Bull also is a prolific bounty hunter for devil fruits, which we know is extremely lucrative space, as that is what Blackbeard is essentially doing right now. But also, we have examples of the Opi Opi no Mi, which had a price of 5 billion berries, which, just to give you an understanding, is higher than Law, Luffy, and Kid's current bounty of 3 billion, and Shanks, Kaido, and Big Mom's bounty at under 5 billion. We also know various groups seem to procure devil fruits somehow, and Green Bull might be a huge part of this process. For example, the Big Mom pirates have specifically food and cooking devil fruits, and somehow the world government and navy have access to an absurd amount of devil fruits too. Doflamingo somehow got his hand on the Mera Mera no Mi. With Green Bull's powers that we saw in 1053, he could poach users or simply walk over a battlefield and cultivate fruits even unintentionally, and it might be possible that he could spawn devil fruits searching for a possible location to grow. And is this everything involved with this side theory? No, it's not. See, if we go back to chapter 905, we find out that Green Bull knows Vegapunk. But not just knows him, he seems kind of familiar with him. And we know that Vegapunk has heavy research involving devil fruits. So it might be that Green Bull knew of Vegapunk through procuring devil fruits for Vegapunk's research. Which brings us to another separated theory. This part is less of a theory and more of a notable point. Starting from the question, what kind of power does Green Bull have? Is it Zoan, Paramecia, or Logia? Honestly, at this point, it could still be any one of them. Most people probably might be on the side of a Paramecia or Logia, but the Zoan classification is still possible if you subscribe to the idea that plants and trees could be Zoan classifications. And I explained this in detail in a few of my past VODs and collaborations, but if you think about it real quick, plants and trees are alive, and they would have extractable lineage factors. And they could even have mythical models like the giant Jack Beanstalk in Skypiea, the jewel tree Adam, and sunlight tree Eve. But in short, each classification could have an interesting explanation to make this display of power make sense. But I will be thinking about Green Bull in more depth as we see more of him. But here's an interesting note in 1053. We see Green Bull appear throughout Wano, and what's interesting about this is that each time, it looks like Green Bull leaves an overgrowth of flowers in his path. Every single panel we see it surround him. Now normally you would assume that this is an awakening, but there's an issue with that idea. For most of our understandings of awakenings so far, which currently is mostly Paramecias at the moment, but all of those awakenings are really taxing. It's not something that should be left on passively. Law noted that his was dangerous for his lifespan, and Kid could only use it in a limited time. Doflamingo used it towards the end, and it wasn't like Katakuri was just permanently terraforming the world around him all the time, and I'd imagine it would probably take a toll on his stamina. Then for Logia, we have examples of Punk Hazard and some unconfirmed islands outside of that, but Akainu and Aokiji were able to terraform the environment, and we don't know the context of this, but they did have enough stamina to fight for 10 days despite doing this. So maybe Green Bull could be a Logia, but I think out of the 3 Devil Fruit choices for Green Bull's powers, the Logia one is the least likely at the moment with the current display. But also on top of that, we see with Luffy's mythical Zoan awakening to Sun God Nika, we don't know how much of a toll this takes on him, but while in his awakened state, he passively changes the environment into rubber, and that doesn't seem to take much of a toll on him. But it's temporary, which in Green Bull's case might still work, as it's not like the flowers would wilt away after he leaves. But the main difference is it seems like Green Bull is doing this in his base form rather than in an awakened state, and Luffy doesn't change his environment to rubber in his base form. So at this point, there's questions in terms of all categories brought out to the point that we can't really tell what power he has, which makes me lean towards newer directions of possible power sources, which I'll get to in a second. But you might be thinking, wait, maybe he can turn off his overgrowth ability, and he's just choosing not to here. So that might be possible, but here's another interesting detail that makes me think otherwise. Remember how we were introduced to Green Bull in chapter 1052? He was flying to Wano on a helicopter flower. From my understanding, he was not on the boats located outside of Wano. He told them to wait and that he was on his way, which makes me think he flew there on his own. Why is that important? Well, why would Green Bull just not be on the boat? Maybe it's because he can't be on a boat. If he were, and this ability were to be let loose, then he might overrun the boat unintentionally with his overgrowth ability. Now that he is on Wano, he doesn't care as much and is letting his overgrowth ability run rampant. And you might be thinking, wait, but when we were introduced to him in chapter 905, this wasn't happening. So I have 2 ideas that can make this make sense. At this point, Green Bull was still a silhouette, so it might be that Oda just didn't portray his power so that he wouldn't spoil the silhouette and keep it in a mystery. But the other idea is that they were shown to be in a beautiful green courtyard that was already saturated with plant life, so maybe his powers wouldn't be activated there. So I do want to cap this off with the understanding that it's not like I don't think Green Bull's power isn't one of the main 3 Devil Fruit classifications, but I'm just pointing out that some details might imply that we are seeing something extremely interesting. I mean, the very fact that you could look at Green Bull's power on display and still be confused about what it is exactly why I'm exploring some other options. If you watch my Devil Fruits are training wheels for peak hockey video, I literally explained this exact possibility of someone becoming a sage of sorts and being able to control natural energy to this extent. So it's interesting that a character like Green Bull showed up that gives that theory a strong basis to stand on. I think everyone should go rewatch that video because I will be revamping that and my elemental hockey theory videos really soon during this break month, since it's been nearly a year since I posted that. But that being said, there might be another option for this power we are seeing. Green Bull could have an artificial fruit created by Vegapunk. There's not too much basis for this logic, but it could be that the overgrowth is a defect of sorts in recreating something else. And what could it be that he's recreating this time? Well, I feel like that very concept of nature and forestry is actually quite core to the story of One Piece. I mean, everyone in the community is searching for the forest god, and it might be that this fruit is a forest god mythical zone fruit, or it could be a copy of the forest god fruit. But on top of that, the reason why I think so much about this fruit is actually because of Emu. Not because of Emu themselves, but rather where we saw Emu. Emu was in the Chamber of Flowers. And then on top of that, I think of Vars and Skypiea and Zoe with all of their interesting ties to unnatural natural occurrences with their forests. But anyways, I'll be drawing several connections in the near future about all of this. There's so much to think about and question when it comes to Green Bull, and it's going to be very exciting. I'll be talking more about Aramaki in the next video, and it's not directly about him, but it might explain Aramaki's possible origins. In any case, I have so many more thoughts on 1053. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll be aiming to pump out a ton of content and keep you all thinking about One Piece while we're in this break month. The content surge has already started. If you haven't seen already, I collaborated with a legend this past weekend, Sai, who primarily does spoiler and chapter reaction videos and is incredibly insightful. In total, we talked for nearly 4.5 hours about things stemming off of chapter 1053, and I can't tell you the amount of times he made my brain explode. We have a discussion posted on his channel, and we continued that conversation on episode 7 of Voice of All Things on my stream that I have every weekend. I've been appearing on a bunch of other creators' channels, and definitely look forward to more of that. And I want to spend the break month connecting to you all and sharing more of my theories. But while there's more free time, I want to connect with more creators. So definitely join the Discord or Twitter to get the updates on everything related to me. The next few videos are going to be amongst some of my favorites, and the plan for the next month is going to be really exciting. If you want more content like this and want to support me, consider joining on as a Patreon, YouTube visionary, or Twitch subscriber. It helps me a lot. But more than anything, I appreciate you for watching my channel, and thank you so much for being here. And so, like always, thank you for connecting with me, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you all on the next ParVision.